Good news, you passed CFA Level 1, but the bad news is the CFA program just got a lot harder. So, the differences between CFA Level 1 and Level 2 is that while both tests cover a large breadth of material, meaning there's a lot of formulas, concepts, and definitions that you have to memorize for both exams, the CFA in Level 2 in particular has quite a bit of depth to each concept. So, in CFA Level 1, where you had to perhaps memorize a formula, they'd give you a few variables, and you could just essentially go to the exam, read the variables off the page, and plug it into the formula. Um, Now with CFA Level 2, you're going to have to know different variations of how to use the same formulas. There's going to be a lot more distracting information in the questions to test that you really know a formula or a concept well, much better than you did at Level 1. So that's why I would suggest for most people not to underestimate CFA Level 2 and actually spend a substantial more time studying for CFA Level 2 than you actually did for Level 1. Even if you're a finance background person who's well versed in finance in general, I would still say you want to spend a lot of time prepping for this test. One thing I wanted to cover is if you're wondering when you should take CFA Level 2, I think you should take it as soon as possible after CFA Level 1. In all three levels of the CFA, the curriculum sort of builds off of the past levels. So if you take a large gap in between levels, you're going to spend a lot of time refreshing on concepts that you had learned for the previous level. So if you just roll from test to test, if you're able to, then you're going to spend a lot less time refreshing on old concepts. What material should you use? What study prep material should you use? So the CFA Institute, they provide these official textbooks that are huge, right? Between like 500 and 800 pages per textbook, and there's 6 different textbooks. When you read these textbooks, there's just, you might have a formula or a key concept and then massive walls of white text, which you might have 4 paragraphs, etc. Because all of these CFA exams are really based on memorizing key concepts and formulas and implementing key formulas, I do not recommend spending very much time on CFA Level 2 in particular, reading the actual textbooks that the CFA Institute provides. I do not think it is a very efficient use of your study time. When I studied for CFA Level 2, I read almost no pages of any of those textbooks. What I did was I used third-party prep providers because they can summarize the information in a very useful way and allow you to spend more time actually flipping through flashcards for memorization and working practice problems, which is going to be way better for your memory retention than reading hundreds of pages of massive walls of text, especially for a test like this. So as far as third-party prep providers, I have not been paid by any prep provider. I'm just telling you guys which ones I preferred to use and I liked the most when I was taking the CFA exams. For Level 2, I used Kaplan Schweizer for the reading aspect of it. What I like about Kaplan Schweizer is they'll take essentially 1/3 of the amount of words to say almost the exact same thing as the CFA Institute's official textbooks. So I would work through these readings and actually make flashcards out of all the formulas and the key definitions and concepts. And then I would go back in a spaced interval and flip through those. If you don't like reading so much and you're a person who more prefers to watch videos for learning, I mean, if you're on this channel right now, that probably describes you. I would suggest markmeldrum.com. I used his package, his CFA Level 2 package, and it was fantastic. Basically, he'll take what would typically be like a 60-page reading in the official CFA Institute textbooks and turn it into a 1-hour lecture that basically covers all the key concepts and formulas and definitions that will really be testable come exam day. So really, whether you like reading, I'd use Kaplan Schweizer. You like watching videos, I'd use markmeldrum.com to basically avoid the sheer amount of time it would take to work through the actual textbooks. What you're going to want to do with the time you save is spend more of that time flipping through flashcards at spaced intervals and working practice problems. One thing that the CFA Institute official textbooks do extremely well is the end of chapter questions. I would recommend anyone taking CFA Level 2 to make sure they've worked every single end of chapter question by the time they're taking the exam. It's just like playing basketball. You wouldn't learn to play basketball by reading books about how to play basketball. You would actually go out there and practice. That's how I think of working practice problems. You're going to learn these concepts far better from your mistakes and actually applying these formulas than you would if you were just reading lengthy textbooks about it. And I touched on flashcards. One thing that was really important for me on each of the 3 levels of the CFA exam was the concept of spaced repetition using flashcards. So I would recommend using this software called Anki. That's Anki. I'll put the free download link in the description. Basically, you make these flashcards electronically while you're going through your readings or your lecture videos, and then it will keep track of when to show you the next card or when to show you that same card that you made at spaced intervals in a way that's basically designed to maximize your memory retention of each concept. This was hugely important for me in passing all 3 levels of the CFA exam. Another thing that I would highly recommend you do is after you finish a section, so let's say you just got through all of the equity readings for CFA Level 2. On the CFA Institute's official website, they have these topic tests. Now you can take, I don't know, maybe like 60 to 100 questions per topic, and it will rank you amongst your peers how well you did amongst them. So you'll know where your strong topics are, where your weak topics are, where you might need to study more, and find your areas that you need to improve upon. One thing that a lot of people like to do is they like to focus on the stuff they're good on. Like they might be getting an 80% in fixed income on, end of chapter questions or something, and a 50% in portfolio management. And then they might like to spend more time on fixed income because it makes them feel good because that's what they know and that's what they're more comfortable with. But I would actually argue it's a better and more efficient use of your time to spend time studying the topics that you're bad at. It's a lot easier to take a topic from a 50% to a 70% than it is to take a topic from an 80% to a 90%. You want to spend your time on where the marginal use of study time is the most efficient for actually getting the highest score on this exam, right? So test smart, work smart, not hard. That's really what I would say level 2 comes down to. And another thing you should really do is the CFA Institute has these mock exams, 2 of them on their official website. They're fantastic mock exams, at least I thought so when I took the test. I would take these like you're actually taking the real CFA exam. So basically, a few Saturdays before the test, sit down for 3 hours, take the morning session with no interruptions, then do a lunch break, and then come back for 3 hours straight, take the afternoon session like you would on the actual exam day. Replicating these study conditions is going to be key because one of the hardest parts of actually taking the CFA exam is the mental fatigue that you experience from just 6 hours of test taking in one day. So you're going to want to get as much prep for that mental fatigue as possible before taking the actual exam. So you've heard a lot of my key things. Few takeaways or other things I would address is like you really need a lot of time to pass CFA Level 2. If you're really good at finance, these concepts, maybe you can pass it in 200, 300 hours. Most people might actually need between 400 to 600 hours depending on how comfortable they are with this material. And so you really need to find time in your schedule, and one thing that's going to cause problems with that, I think, is social media. Most people, they spend hours every day scrolling on social media, and this is just useless time in my opinion. So one thing I did when I was taking CFA Level 2 is I deleted my Facebook account, I deleted my Reddit account, I deleted all these things that were basically wasting my time, and I just said I'm going to study for 2 hours straight when I get home from work. I'm going to set my phone on airplane mode, and I'm just going to be efficient this entire time with my study. So, it's all about dedication, commitment to it, and just keeping a consistent schedule, 6 days a week, maybe take an off day, etc. But, just keep grinding and you'll get there. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please drop us a like. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to the channel. And I wrote an article in more detail covering how to pass CFA Level 2 on my website. If you'd like to see that, check the link in the description. Thank you.